when you're dreaming from a mill town.
So, what's your name?
Noun.
How do you get the name Noun?
It's kind of hard to say. It was a combination of a bunch of things. I liked acid a lot. I still like acid, but I really liked acid a lot in high school. So like, Dose. And then I liked the Russian writer, Dostoevsky. And then, God, now just sounded hard, like person, place, or thing. Back when I started rapping, there was a lot more emphasis on like the underground aspect. So like everybody had names that kind of sounded like they wrote graffiti, even if they didn't write graffiti. So yeah, I don't know, kind of like confluence of factors, right? I usually tell people like a different story every time they ask me. You probably actually got the closest to the truth.
So where are you from?
I was born in Chicago. I grew up in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Then I moved to Easton, Pennsylvania in the Lehigh Valley. Then I moved to Pittsburgh when I was like 12. Went to high school here. I went to college again in Manhattan and Philadelphia. Then I moved back here to go to law school in 2008. So I mean, I am from Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh, but I've lived a lot of places.
So what was growing up in Pittsburgh like for you?
It was dope. I moved here at a really cool time. It was in the middle of the grimy 90s. There was a lot of underground hip-hop culture that was starting to kind of transpire and manifest, so I got in where I fit in, and the city was, safe enough to explore, but not so safe that it didn't require you to develop some sort of sharper edge and survival mechanism, be street smart. So it was a really, really cool place to grow up. It was kind of like the movie Kids minus like the AIDS, you know what I mean? Just like a lot of like, running around, people skating, minor fisticuffs, tagging shit up, skipping school, rapping. It was great.
When did you first get into rapping?
Like actually started rapping probably like 15, 16. I hooked up with Mike Language and Science, who was in Megadeth most recently, and my boy Scooter, and Tim Brindle. He's a Christian rapper now, like pretty well known, famous one. And we started this crew called the Platoon that was like a knockoff, like we were a knockoff of Killer Army, which is crazy because Killer Army is like a subsidiary of like Wu-Tang. So it was like we were like aspiring to be like Killer Army, which is really, really underground. And then from there we had a group called the Deadly Scribes, and that kind of like gelled a little bit better, and we transitioned into that, started doing a lot of shows here, winning some local battles, got a decent fan base here, and kind of got on towards the late 90s before I went to school in Philly.
So how did you guys you first gained the buzz with the group, the Deadly Scribes?
Yeah.
And who was a part of that?
It was me, it was Mike Language, Scooter was in it. He like rapped in the beginning, then he mostly just wrote graffiti. It was Tim Brindle, Ambush, and it was Brandon, Science. And then when Tim went away to college in Philadelphia, he picked up Verbal Tech, because Verbal Tech is from Baltimore and he was going to school up in Philly. Then we like formed another group in Philly called the Parts of Speech, and it was like me, Verbs, and Tim, and then Brandon and Mike had figurative language, and then together we were the Deadly Scribes. So it was starting to get like extreme. It was like Game of Thrones. This is all happening between like 99 and 2000, because I graduated high school in like 2000, and Tim went to college in like 99, and then Scooter came up to Temple like a year later.
What type of things did you do back then to gain a buzz? Because it was a different time.
Oh yeah, it was in some ways it was paradoxically like a lot easier, because not everybody could make music. So like all the people that like suck, like they were kind of like barred from it, because that's not entirely true, because there's always going to be like shitty rappers. They're the fifth element of hip hop. It was easier because back then the internet was very nascent, so there wasn't as much competition or other people like really around. So if you were good, people would hear about you more quickly. It didn't feel like that though. It felt like nobody knew what was going on, but then like you go places and people would know who you were. Also, like back then, like doing stuff like getting into battles and even just coming out with something. Because now it's like so easy. You just record a song in a studio and it gets uploaded as, bytes and files to the internet, and you put like a JPEG of like the cover up or whatever, and then you're done. You know what I mean? Whereas like I had vinyl, like actual like wax vinyl, before I had an email address or a cell phone. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like you laugh, but that's how it was back in the day. So we like came out with like, we hooked up with Jay Rawls, the producer from Lone Catalysts, and he did he did Brown Skin Lady on the Black Star album, and he's from Columbus, and he did stuff with Jay Sands, who's from Pittsburgh. They're the group Lone Catalysts. And then I think we got a beat from Steve Griff out of Reach here in Pittsburgh, who was doing stuff with like this rapper El Fudge, who's really well known in the underground circuit. And he had like a deal through like this, I think he had a deal through a label in Belgium, like Brick 9000 or something like that. So it was like we hooked up with those dudes because they were like more established. We got some beats off of them. We went into a studio in Philly. You know, we recorded a vinyl, and you know, we pressed it up, and we were just walking around selling white label vinyl to people at shows. And you know, but like back then though, like, you know, Sandbox Automatic at undergroundhiphop.com, like they'd be like, oh, word, you guys have vinyl? Like, send me one vinyl, or, you know, send me a burnt CD of the vinyl. You like, you know, take the 2 days it took to burn a CD with your butter churn, like by hand. Then you put it on the Stagecoach, and the Pony Express would ride it out there. Then the guy would send a sparrow with a message attached to its leg and a couple gold coins, and you'd send him some more vinyl. But like, nah, I mean, you know, and we walked uphill both ways to go to shows. But nah, like, back then though, you know, like people would order vinyl up front. Like nowadays, you can't even get people to listen to your music for free. Like, I'm so terrible, I only will watch videos, and this is me. Like, I'm just as bad as some like fucking like 15-year-old like thought at her parents' house, like in the suburbs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I literally like won't even listen to a song. I can't remember the last time I listened to a song was Dave East on Straight Outta Harlem, Make a Dollar, because my boy, who's like a super G'd up dude, sent it to me, and I know he's like so serious and never talks about music and hates everyone. So like, I was like, all right, I will listen to this song. I was like, literally, like, he sent it to me, I was all high at midnight. I was like, oh, no video? Like, this is, boy, what's this? Which is like so funny because I've come out with like, what, 4 videos in my entire life. Yeah, it's like completely hypocritical. But yeah, back then, like, you know, like it was hard to put out the actual music. So if you put it out, that was like a level of seriousness that you passed right there. And then like, there was Sandbox Automatic, there was Hip Hop Infinity, there was undergroundhiphop.com. There were all these places that like you could sell your music on, and people would actually buy it. Because back then, like, you know, I mean, I guess there was like Kazaa, like Napster, and like LimeWire, but like very like basic back then still, and there wasn't everything on there. So if you wanted shit, you still had to cop it. We had to go to the record store to like buy vinyl. It's like, it's insane like how differently it works. You really could get a buzz by just doing, you know, just doing shows, you know, and just like being good. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds insane. You're like, what'd you do to get a buzz? I was like, I don't know. We rapped and like we were good. Like, it didn't take that much more. You know what I mean? Like, just, you know, like battling. Like, I won some battles here, and then I did Scribble Jam, and like that got me a lot of buzz. Like, it wasn't as hard back then. You know, I remember we went to Philly in college. There was enough underground hip hop going on. We would play out like 5-6 nights a week. Like, we were some kind of like rock band in like Detroit in like the 70s. There was like enough gigs that you could rap 5 different places 5 nights a week.
Talk about when you first started touring and how that started.
First tour we ever went on was a PA's Finest tour. There was a production company, a promotion company in Pittsburgh called Influential Flavors. It was, you know, back in late 90s. There was this dude Mo, who's a very well known like graphic designer now. He like makes a lot of flyers, and I think he's working on like a concept called Cypher. Is it Cypher Circuit or Cypher Connection or something like that? It's a, you know, that he's like an underground hip hop like entrepreneur, promoter, creative type dude. And him and he had a company called Influential Flavor, and Brick had Time Bomb, and heads would like collaborate and like start doing shows and stuff. I think my freshman year of college, Influential Flavor, they had a tour, and it was called PA's Finest, and it was us, Sharon, Dawn, DJ Huggy, and Strict Flow, and we went on like actual tour. It was like 5 or 6 days. It was like a week. Obviously there was a Pittsburgh show, and we just, you know, drove around in a van, and it was at Drake Steele's, the dude that owns Showcase Barbecue in Homewood. He drove, and he was the tour DJ, and that was like the first time we were like ever like on an official like booked up tour, and it was like wild because we were like 19 years old. Like, You know what I mean? Like we were just bugging, and it was it was a lot of fun. We started like touring on our own like right after that, because like I realized that like sitting around and waiting to get booked like just wasn't the move, and you weren't going to make that much money. Nobody was going to know about you, whatever. So like we started just trying to get shows anywhere we could, you know. And we would have the same type of situation like every weekend pretty much, where there'd be like a show in Pittsburgh on a Friday, show in Philly on a Saturday. So we would always be going back and forth between Pittsburgh and Philly, and most of us lived in both Pittsburgh and Philly, or we would just stay with each other. So it kind of worked out. And then eventually you start adding New York to it, start adding like Boston, work down the seaboard a little bit, go to Baltimore, then like jump over. And then I signed solo to a label called Manifest, and that was able to help me get some more shows. And then after Scribble, like I just really got on like that like guerrilla touring ethic. Like I would just, you know, find the promoters via email, other rappers, whatever. At this point, like the internet's getting bigger, so you can talk to people more frequently on the internet. It was still pre-social media, but like people were using email like very frequently to communicate, and there were forums on like, you know, message boards about our particular genre of rap and like freestyle battling and stuff like that. So like I was able to connect with a lot of people that way to start booking more and more shows. And then that's how I started going overseas too, because I was finishing up with college, and I was like, all right, well, I either got to make a move or like, you know, actually have a real job. And you know, I couldn't do that.
How did you first start going overseas?
It was because the Scribble Jam people knew about me. I had seen other rappers go overseas, and I was just like, you know what, fuck this. If they're going overseas, I'm going overseas too. So my business model was, and I still think this is a winner, I'm like so far out of the game now that like I just tour when I want to, like when I want to go somewhere. You know what I mean? But like I'll give away my business model now, and this is game that was meant to be sold but is now being told. You buy your plane tickets and you get your train passes for Europe and or Japan and or like block plane tickets for Australia up front. You front the expense. The reason you do that is otherwise you're going to sit around with your thumb up your ass waiting for a bunch of people that like smoke as much weed as you do and you've never met before to get it together. And if you have people hitting you up to book international tours for you, then you shouldn't even be listening to me. Like you're famous, you know what I mean? Like you don't have this problem. You know, this isn't like good information for like Mac Miller. You know, he's like, wow, guys, you know. But like if you're trying to get on, you know, this is the way to do it. You front the expenses, then you just prorate what you're going to charge per show to factor in the cost of getting out there and the cost of getting around. You have to sell X amount of merchandise a day to handle like, you know, your per diem if they aren't giving you food, or if they're giving you food, then, you know, that's good. It's just gravy on top of your per diem. You sell music. We used to sell music and t-shirts. Now you pretty much can just sell t-shirts. But, and then from there, you know, you're going to make X amount of shows. So it's like, and then you book as many shows as you possibly can to, you know, prolong the period that you're out there and maximize your profit. So like if it's gonna take like one person, say like, you know, back it was cheaper back in the day, but now like what, like $1,000 round trip plane ticket to Europe, okay, and then your train pass is X $1,000, you know what I mean? So then like you got to make like $2,000 to, you know, $2,400 or $500 to get back to zero and be able to travel the country. So once you make that $2,500, everything else is just pure profit. So you go to every promoter and you're like, oh, you know what that cost is going to be. So what's 2,500 euro spread out, or $2,500 in euro spread out over a month? How much more do you have to charge per show? Then you just factor that in.
How would someone find all these overseas promoters or find how to book overseas shows?
The internet, motherfucker. No, it's easy, yo. Like it's just the internet. It's really just the internet. Like just Google Finland hip hop and a board might come up. That was what I would do. I would sign up to foreign hip hop message boards under Dose Noun. It would take forever to figure it out because this is before Google Translate. I was like signing up in like Japanese and Finnish and like Bulgarian. Every country had a forum, and that board would be like religiously trafficked by people. You know what I mean? It would almost never be dead. There'd be thousands of people posting on it because it would literally be the only underground hip hop message board for every fan in that country. Then I'd just post and I'd be like, yo, this is Dose Noun. Like, you know, here's some shit I did or whatever. Back then there wasn't YouTube, so you'd have to like, you know, put up a clip to maybe like a site that would host like the real player for the video, put up like a, you know, screen, put in like a JPEG of like, you know, like your album cover, put up some links to some songs on some other websites, etc., etc. You'd be like, I'm trying to come out here, like what's good? And like, you know, people would introduce you on the boards to people, you meet people that way, and then you could spin out into other places. Like if you get a show in like Helsinki in Finland, the first question you always want to ask somebody is, all right, you look, fucking Google Finland and look at other major cities and be like, what other cities are close by that have hip hop scenes? Be like, you know, like there's usually more than one hip hop scene per country. Oftentimes the biggest city doesn't even have the dopest scene, to be honest. And then they would put you in touch with those people, and then you could even spin out even further and be like, what's the smallest town in your country that throws hip hop shows? And like you just run the whole region that way, because one guy would introduce you to another guy, would introduce you to another guy, would introduce you to another guy, and like before you know it, you got like 6-7 shows in Germany, like 8-9 shows in Finland. You know, and then you can really start working your way like up and down a country and be gone for a month or more at a time. And that's like when you actually start to make like, you know, not like real money in the sense of someone being famous, but like real money in the sense that you can like live off of it.
What are some of the favorite countries you've gone to rap in?
Finland, for sure. I've probably done shows in I've probably done shows in like 12 different cities in Finland, which has like 5 million people in it. So it's not like that big. Of a country to do that many shows in. I really liked Japan, obviously, because I keep going back. It's dope. I really, I mean, there's a lot of like Germany was always like the backbone because they have like such a strong like internal scene there, and they have so many cities you can do shows in. I've had some really dope shows in Denmark, like really dope shows in Denmark. I mean, I would say Denmark, Finland, Germany. I mean, there's just so many though, dude, because like Eastern Europe was dope too, like Hungary. We went to like Budapest like a lot, had like a lot of really good shows there. It would almost be harder to say like the places I didn't like, as opposed to the ones like I did like.
Why do you think people in these countries, some of them don't even speak English, why do you think they gravitate towards American hip hop?
Well, most of them do speak some kind of English, and they teach them. They like a lot of them learn from listening to rap records and American movies. Yeah, I mean, they just like love American culture. And Europe, I generally find the people to be like culturally kind of smarter than Americans are. Like they kind of appreciate shit that's like good on its own merits, as opposed to just liking stuff because it's famous. Like in America, people are so obsessed with fame and economic success that success becomes success in its own right. You know, I've literally heard people say that they listen to Jay-Z, and that's like, you know, I know Jay-Z is like not that relevant now, but this is the first time I heard of this like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And I'm not even saying that he's not dope and you shouldn't listen to him, but people would literally be like, yeah, I fuck with him, like he does huge numbers. You know what I mean? Like in America, people literally will base their decisions as to what art they want to take in based on its economic success, which like in Europe is like crazy, because Europe, like it's like known, like, you know, so many great European artists like toiled in obscurity during their actual lives and then became like super famous like after they died, like Van Gogh. You know, like they have much more of like a bohemian culture. You know, they were like hipsters before there were hipsters here. Like hipsters here were just kind of how like European people have been since like post World War II. So there's just like a lot more acceptance for it over there. And also like hip hop as a culture, not just like about like rapping about like selling drugs and shit like that and like, you know, making money, and rapping about like trying to get on. Like there they treat hip hop like breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, all that stuff. And there's like a lot of people like from those cultures there that like really participate in it. So like they take that shit seriously. It's kind of like when I started going to Europe, it was how America was like in the late 80s, early 90s for hip hop, which was like really like, you know, the golden era in the sense that there weren't that many shitty shows back then. Like everything was well attended. People were just so hungry, you know what I mean, to like get real rap.
you talked about before you did battling, and eventually you were in Scribble Jam and rapping in front of like tens of thousands of people. Can you talk about what that was like and how that came about?
Scribble Jam?
Yeah, and just how you got in the battling and how you became so well known in the battling scene.
I mean, I did a couple battles in Pittsburgh. Well, I mean, I realized early on I had a facility for freestyling, that I had some sort of natural talent to do so, but I wasn't particularly good at it. You know what I mean? Like, there were people that were way better than me. I remember, like, I think it was Noodles, like, thrashed me, like, the first time. The first time I ever rapped in public was at a freestyle battle. I was, like, 16 years old. Justin Strong, the dude that owned Shadow and Ava Lounge, he threw these battles in his backyard in Oakland, in South Oakland. This was like some of the only hip hop stuff that was happening. It was like hand drawn flyers handed out and shit. And you had to like go sign up. I think we had to go to Time Bomb to sign up at the battle. Like, they kept like the list, the master brick curated the master list at Time Bomb. So like we signed up for the battle, and it was like, it literally, I remember cracking up when I saw 8 Mile, because like it was like 8 Mile was like a far more dramatic version of what happened, because literally we signed up for this battle. It was me and my boy, it was Tim Ambush, and like at that point, like, we didn't really freestyle. Like, we were more like listening to like Cannabis and shit that would spit like written battle rhymes that were like super dope. And nowadays, like, most battling on the scene is like pre-written battles, but like back in the day, that shit was like unthinkable. If you got caught doing that, it was like the greatest like faux pas and like, you know, shameful shit ever, although people did it all the time. Back then, it was like people freestyled as much in battles as people write them now. And I actually have thoughts about written battles where it's actually more entertaining that people do it that way, because the thing about freestyling is that there's only a couple people that are really good at it, so most of the battles suck. Whereas written battles, like, yeah, like, it might not be quite as exciting as like a freestyle battle when you have 2 people that are really good, but like, if you're gonna pay money to watch people battle, you would probably much more rather want to spend your money on people who wrote the stuff, because then like everybody's gonna be at least somewhat entertaining, and the really good people are gonna be like insanely entertaining. Back then though, it was just straight freestyle. It was very, very pure to like that kind of culture. So we had never freestyled. So we go to this backyard in South Oakland. We like take the bus there and shit, and like find, like, you know, never been there before. I think we both snuck out of our cribs to do it too. It was like a Tuesday night or something. You go to the back, and it's this like crazy house party, like a couple hundred people like hanging off the deck all around the backyard. They got like turntables, they got a sound system, they got some microphones and some speakers, and you're just like in this like back patio battling. But literally, just like 8 Mile, you look up and it is every single person you have ever met in your entire life was there, like from the pits. This is pre-internet, so you only knew people around your way. It was like every person on the east side of Pittsburgh that had any sort of interest in underground rap, plus anyone who knew us from school at all, went there, because like there were like, what, 4 parties a month in Pittsburgh back then? You know, so like you look up and it's like, okay, word, it's like the first time we've ever rapped in public. Everyone I've ever known is there, and we like really didn't realize, we were this naive that like battling was done via freestyle, because like we just didn't understand that, because it seemed to be like too difficult to do. So we were like Cannabis, so we had our shit like all written down to the point where we had these like volumes of writtens and like different, like we were like a fucking 256 computer where you take out like one disc and put in the other. It'd be like, this one down, this written up. You know, you try to like memorize them and shit. It was pathetic and hilarious. But so like here we are, like we're actually in a battle now, and we have to like battle. We're battling, and like we actually have to like freestyle, like for the first time ever. It was like, imagine like if you trained like the whole time for like a boxing match, and then like you get in the ring and it's like your big shot, and they're like, yo, it ain't boxing though, it's MMA. And instead of like deciding, you can't leave though, like what were we gonna do, not do that battle in front of everyone we knew? So it was like literally like just like tightrope walking between like skyscrapers. Like I remember, like, dude, I was so nervous, it was like a hallucinogen. Like I could not even feel the hand I was holding the mic in. And those were like my first freestyles ever. Like ever. And yeah, I mean, like you know, Noodles just fucking like brushed me aside like Mike Tyson, like fighting like Leon Spinks or something. He's just like.
And then eventually you got the Scribble Jam.
Yeah, I got better. We battled again. I won a couple other joints in Pittsburgh. Like a year later, I learned after that what I had to do because I saw him do it and other people do it. Cause I saw Scribble Jam too. Well, the videotape started coming into the high school through Graffiti Cats, and they would, you know, we could watch the videos and see like what dudes were doing, and then we kind of got like, Idea was doing really well then, Immortal Technique, Pac FM, like. There were like a lot of people that were like starting to like Supernatural and Juice. So like we started to see techniques from people and like learn how to do it. And then I think it was like I was 19 or 20. I entered in Scribble Jam for the first time, and I sent like a videotape from one of the Pittsburgh battles, and they picked me, and I went out there to do it. So then that was like the same thing all over again. It was like getting on stage in front of everybody in the Midwest that like fucked with underground rap, and like, you know, so it's like. Most people I ever performed for probably before was like 400 people or like 500, like a really big like local show or like opening up for somebody. And like Scribble Jam, there was definitely a couple thousand people there. I remember looking at stage and seeing like flash bulbs going off like further back than I could see, and I was like, oh.
Eventually you got together with BZE and you guys made a group called Time Capsule.
Yeah.
And what brought you guys together, and why'd you call it Time Capsule? And
I mean,
talk about that.
Me and him, I mean, like I'd always like known him because he was involved and into the same stuff that like me and my crew was. He's like a super underground cat. He's into skateboarding, graffiti, hip hop, like that street level, you know, no commercialism, no money involved type situation. You know what I mean? And mad weed. And like that was, I mean, that's kind of like our value system too. So when I came back to Pittsburgh from Philly, I've been living in Philly from like 2000 to 2008. When I came back, he was still here on the east side, still doing his thing, still making his music, putting it out and stuff like that. And like he sought me out, I think, because he knew it would be good. And I was receptive like immediately because I knew that he was the dude back here with like the skill level and the understanding of the culture, because he's even older than I am, so he remembers it like from that time. It was like really, really innocent and like really dope, you know what I mean? And Time Capsule, just, you know, it's like the time capsule. I mean, we spell it a little bit differently, you know what I mean, with like the soul, but yeah, it's we're trying to, you know, like, and it's funny because like our music doesn't really even sound like the late 90s hip hop. Like we're not like a tribute to the era, you know what I mean? Like we use like newer style sounds, newer beats. Like it's not like we like completely dress like that or whatever. So it's not like that archaic, but like you can just tell that like our actual lyrical thought process and the type of music we want to make is like rooted in that 90s ethic and vibe of like true pure like underground hip-hop. Like we don't fuck around with trap shit, we don't fuck around with snapbacks, we don't fuck around, you know what I mean, like we're old, you know, we're old heads, and we make music for like the old heads that have that discriminating taste from that era, and anyone else who wants to get down with it, but like we're not mad either way.
Who are some other Pittsburgh artists you work with
nowadays? I mean, I've done stuff with B and Mayo, like 58s. I think I'm on the Lost tapes or whatever for that Take 5 joint. I did another really good one with B called Street Struck that like I think we both said the same thing. We're like, damn, I should have gone on the Lost tapes too. That joint was hard. I think I did do a joint with Fats or Joey and Zuka and Hubs. I don't know if it's out yet, but it'll be. I mean, it's from like a minute ago. That shit will be hard as fuck. Like when it comes out. I've done, again, I don't know if it got like released or whatever, but like me and BZ did like some stuff with Beatty for sure, you know what I mean, like a couple of years ago. Mostly I do my stuff with like BZ. I'm not against doing like anything with anybody at any point. It's just like I just like my availability is just low. Like I'm just not really like around that much, like to, you know, be in the studio. Currently
to the mainstream, Wiz and Mac represent Pittsburgh hip hop. If you had to pick one other local rapper to like really represent to the mainstream what Pittsburgh is, who would you pick it to be?
I mean, dude, that's a hard question, man. Because there's different people. There's different people for like different parts of the city. You know what I mean? Like I just think that like, you know, because there's definitely like the you know, like the black Pittsburgh experience I think is so different from the white Pittsburgh experience, because Pittsburgh's one of the whitest major cities in the country, I believe. So it's extremely segregated and stuff like that. And I think that like rap, it shouldn't just be about like, oh, this guy wears his hat that way, or like we use this kind of slang word. Like we really talk about like representing what's happening in Pittsburgh to like outside the city. You know what I mean? Like I think like you would have to like show those like social conditions. And I think that like it's not that nobody does, I think so many people do. And like Pittsburgh rap is like so regional. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think that like if you want to hear about like the East End underground shit, like you have to like hear about like Time Capsule. If like you want to see what it's like to be like from like the Mon Valley, then you listen to like Mayo and B. You know what I mean? Like if you want to hear like about like growing up in like a middle class community like Penn Hills and kind of being like an old head who's like wise to the ways of the world, like you know, it's like hubs. You want to hear about like the North Side, which to me is like the Bronx of Pittsburgh. It's just like, you know, kind of like super grimy, super hectic, then you listen to Joe. You know what I mean? Like you want to hear about the Hill, then like you listen to Ghosty. You know what I mean? Like it's like different people have like the neighborhoods here are so distinct, the experiences are so distinct. It would be like better if heads maybe just listen to like 2 songs from like 30 people, you know what I mean, as opposed to like 1 song, you know, or like 1 artist exclusively.
In 2011, you released a short film called I Miss Touring, starring yourself. Can you talk about the concept behind that and how that got put together?
Yeah, for sure. I think that thing got taken down for like copyright violations.
It did. I actually looked it up last night to see when it was released, and it was like something with copyright claims or something.
Yeah, because we used like Ella Fitzgerald and shit. We used mad open samples on that shit. That came about because I was in law school and I was really, really bored because I couldn't tour anymore. Because I was in school, I could only get away for like a week or 2 here or there, and I went from like being on the road all the time to like sitting in fucking Oakland and like Brewer's Bagel studying. So it was really depressing and shitty. So I was like so bored, and I also never put out a video. Everybody else was like putting out like all these that was like 2010 on was like the year, like 2010 to like 11 was like the year of the video. Maybe like 2009 to like 11. Like before that, not many people had videos that look tight, and all of a sudden the technology caught up where you could shoot like a pretty high def video and put it out and it didn't look amateurish anymore, and you could do it for like not that much money, you know what I mean? So then everybody had videos out. So I'm like, damn, I'm just like washed, you know what I mean? Like I got no videos and I am not on tour. So I was like, how can I be creative? And I said, okay, I'll just do a short film and make it 3 or 4 videos at once, like almost do like an EP. So I like recorded an EP, then kind of structured this like low budget sci-fi crime comedy short film around it, then like wove like the EP through it. And then me and Myers did it because, you know, like if you're gonna do something like that, I think like, you know, Myers is probably the guy for the job, you know what I mean? Because it's like because he like thrives like in chaos, like when he shoots, and like, you know, we're just making it all up as we go along.
What was the concept of the movie?
It was like that I had these robots that looked like 1950s like cartoon robots, like all square like rivets and shit, and they sold like digital weed for me. And I had this organization, and they broke away from me and like set up like their rival faction and like robbed me. So then like me and my friends like hunted them down and like killed them. I think was in a nutshell the plot of the movie. Yeah.
So something a lot of people might not know about you is that you have a lot of experience writing screenplays, and recently you wrote a movie with Cam'ron from Dipset. And can you talk about how that happened, what that experience was like?
These dudes from, I think, out the west side, Beans and his brother, hooked up with Myers in like 2008 or 2009, and they brought in a director from New York named Brendan Cochran, and he had a producer, and Myers ended up, and I got hired to write the movie. So I wrote Undergrad. It was a film, like a kind of like hood, low budget movie, but actually had like really high production value. And if you see Myers in it, like he kills it, you know what I mean? Like he deserves like the Pittsburgh Hood Oscar for his work in undergrad. But like that came out and that was like a thing, you know what I mean? Like, cause it was like people back then were putting out videos, and like all of a sudden, like, you know, I had written a movie and Myers had helped put a movie together and stuff like that. Like it helped out a lot. I think the woman who's the producer, she like wanted me to do like video treatments for bigger artists and stuff like that, and through that she hooked me up with Freaky Zeke and Cam, because she knew them from like the New York like party and like club circuit and stuff like that. So then I started doing work for them, not even like really seeing them, just doing shit remotely, spending like a lot of time on the phone with Cam'ron. It was very, very surreal, you know what I mean? And then it was that movie Percentage or whatever. It like came up with like some of the ideas for Percentage, and then I didn't hear anything from them for a minute, and then I realized that they definitely used my ideas for Percentage, because I gave one of the characters a percentage, like the names of like one of my friends, and then Googled the dude. He came up on IMDb. So I hit him up and I was like, yo, like what's good? And they sent me some money, and Cam flew me out to where he lived, and we like sat down for a night and kind of like started doing a new movie from there. I haven't heard from them now, like in candor, in quite a while. Like I haven't heard from them since like around the time I got sick, which was like, you know, year and a half-ish ago or whatever. At that point, they had like a deal to put out like a bunch of movies. I don't know where they're at with that now, but I definitely wrote a really, really, really hilariously like fucked up movie for them. I also wrote one for these dudes from Wilkinsburg that was like a hood comedy, like kind of like Friday, or not even Friday, like Don't Be a Menace to South Central, but it was like set in like Wilkinsburg. That's actually like my proudest work, honestly, because it's so fucked up. Like it's like such like there's so many like really, 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 really ill jokes that like only work on like a Pittsburgh level. I wish somebody would just give me $10 million to make that movie. It'd be so funny.
So after you run as a rapper, you decided to go back to school and get a law degree and become a lawyer. What motivated you to do that?
I had done a tour in America, and I saw the writing on the wall. People weren't buying CDs anymore. It was getting harder and harder to make money. There were too many other artists out, and I felt like I had just been treading water. You know what I mean? I was making a couple G's a month rapping, but it was like I was flipping the same 3 or 4 G's over and over again. You know what I mean? You like go out, make $4,000 on tour or whatever, $5,000 on tour, come home, spend it, go back out, make 4,000, 5,000. Like, you know, like I was never getting past that one point. I was just like, I'm just gonna be treading water like this for like the rest of my life, or until I just stop one day. Like it'll just dry up for good. I hadn't made any music in a really long time because I was spending all my time trying to get shows to make money. So like I wasn't even like being like an artist, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't even like doing any of those things that like I should have been doing, you know, to like make music and like be part of the culture. So I just kind of realized like I needed to go like a new direction in my life, and I was like, all right, I'm not good at designing websites. I don't have any technical aptitude. I certainly like I'm not going to be a doctor. I was like a history major in college. So I was like, look, and I probably need to work for myself, you know. So I was like, all right, like what am I going to do? And I was like, I should just probably be a criminal defense attorney. And I was like, all right, fuck, okay, here we go.
So you got your law degree and you released the Thanks Dan commercial.
Yeah.
How do you think of that idea, and what made you do that?
Because when I went to law school, I like stupidly realized after I went that it was like a fucking crock of shit sham, and like nobody was like getting jobs or making money, because after the economy collapsed, like the legal industry has like been in the toilet ever since. So I knew I was gonna have to work for myself. I mean, I kind of knew that anyways long term, but you know, normally to be a criminal defense attorney, you usually work as a public defender, district attorney, or at least like work for somebody for a couple of years first. Like, you know, it's not optimal to hang out your shingle the second you graduate school. But I knew I was gonna have to, so I remember sitting in class in like ethics class, which is, you know, funny, but they were showing us like the laws or rules for advertising under the bar. And I remember actually, I never paid attention in class. I was a shitty student, but I remember paying attention to that part and being like, okay, so if you do this, this, that, and this, you could take a commercial all the way out to here, like push it that far, and there's really not much they can do to you for it. So that's what I did.
The commercial was you kind of telling the clients that you think like a criminal as well, and all that. What made you decide to go that route with the commercial?
I just knew as a criminal defense attorney that like there was a way to talk to potential clients, which would be people accused of committing crimes that hadn't been done before. I kind of just made a personal injury commercial for criminal defense attorneys. You know what I mean? Like that's like, I took like the template of like Edgar Schneider, which is like, or like, I mean, the only other one I saw I'd seen before was the Better Call Saul ad, which is like what everyone compares me to or whatever. And you know, it was like kind of like the same template. I was like, okay, like there's all these like cheesy but effective like viral personal injury ads out there with these lawyers doing like crazy shit with like low budget effects and stuff and just like being kind of nuts. I was like, what if someone just did one for being a criminal defense attorney? Like, you know, and like I batted the idea around forever. I didn't start watching Breaking Bad until several years after it came out. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really watch it in law school. So I only saw that shit, honestly, like after I started having that idea, and then I saw it and I was like, all right, yeah. I was like, I need to do something kind of like this. And then I got really sick and I almost died, and like two things happened. One was I lost like 120 pounds. So America being as shallow as it is, I realized that like I was like probably far more presentable like on camera now, and like, you know, people would like respond to me that I was in better shape. As fucked up as it is true. And two was that I almost died, so I was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like I had the idea I was gonna do this when I was in law school a year or two ago. Like, why am I gonna not do it now? You know what I mean? And I was like, who cares? Let's just do it and see what happens. So I did, rolled the dice, and yeah, the rest is YouTube history.
Did you expect the commercial to reach the level that it did?
No. I thought it was gonna get like 5,000-10,000 views. I thought it would like probably ruffle the same kind of feathers locally, because I figured just people in Pittsburgh would watch it. You know what I mean? It would kind of be like a big inside joke with me and my friends, and like, yeah, I'd pick up a couple cases off of it and I'd be cash flow positive. You know, like off the commercial. I thought like, you know, make some money, it'd be cool, it'd be fun, you know. I had no fucking idea that many people were gonna watch it. I mean, I probably, and you know how I knew? Because like, dude, I posted it at like 11 o'clock at night on Facebook. I didn't even like post the YouTube link. I just threw it up, or I just threw the YouTube link, I mean, up as a Facebook status. It was like, check out my new commercial. And like all of a sudden I could see people like liking it, you know. But I was like, whatever. I was like, mad people are watching it. That's crazy. I didn't think anything of it though. I went to sleep that night, and like I woke up, dude, to like literally like 100 text messages, like 100 emails. My phone was like ringing, like vibrating, you know what I mean? And then I like look on like Facebook and shit, and I like look, I'm like, oh damn, how many views does it have? And it was like, by the time I woke up that morning, it was like 10,000, and then it just started saying 301. Like at a certain point, it was still numbers, and then like sometime that morning or some point late in that night, it like just turned into 301, and I was like, oh geez, this is serious. I was like, damn, I had no idea that was gonna happen, because I would have probably I would have managed it a little bit, like, you know, I would have like time the release like a little bit differently probably. I would have, if anything, I'm not saying I would have underplayed it, I would have overplayed it. I'd have had a big event, you know what I mean, like thrown a show and like put it up on a, you know, like I just like threw that shit up as casually as you will send your friend a link to something like, hey, check out this shit on YouTube, you know what I mean? No idea.
So what would you say to the lawyers that think that you are kind of making a joke out of the craft and not taking it seriously?
Suck my dick. I'm playing. See, that's why it's hard to do a rap interview and answer legal questions.
Yeah.
What am I gonna say to my haters? They know what it is. Nah, I mean, quit counting my money, motherfucker. Get your own shit. Nah, I would say that. No, look, I understand if you don't like it. I get it. You know, I totally get it, and you're completely entitled to have your opinion about it, and you can think any way you want to think about me. I mean, I would just say probably like you should actually like meet me, know me, talk to me. You might think differently, but I understand. I can't control how you're gonna think about it, and I even go so far as to say I empathize and understand why it would piss you off. I would just ask you to think about some of the reasons that I did it, like to try to connect with people, obviously to try to make some money, like get something going in my career. You know, and what I had been through in that year before I put the commercial out, you know, I think if like, you know, if you know that story, possibly, I'm not saying how you should think one way or another, it might make you feel a little bit differently about it. And I would say like most people who know me know that my intentions are good. Like I really, really strive to be at least an honest person, you know, and like look out for people and stuff like that. And, you know, if you know me as a lawyer, as a person, you probably know that, you know, I really do try to be like a decent, reasonable human being. And again, that might also change your perception as such. But if not, I can't control what you do or how you think, so I can't really care about it that much.
Recently, Drugs Inc. came to Pittsburgh, and they got in contact with you to kind of be their entryway into the underground scene here.
Oh God, that shit.
Why do you think they picked you, and what was that experience like?
They picked me because of the commercial. I mean, 100%, like no question. It was the commercial. I didn't really take them to see drug dealers. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do that for them. Besides one, who's my cousin, and doing the kind of cat's out of the bag because we like visited him in prison. It wasn't like, yeah, it wasn't like a reveal or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't like put them down with other people. I put them in contact with people who I thought would be, you know, good to like get them in touch with people, some of whom they already knew. To be honest, they said they didn't really need. It's so funny because like every city they go to, people are like, "No, man, you don't understand. It's a code of silence on these streets of insert Kansas City, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, whatever. Like, ain't nobody gonna talk to you here, and you might get hurt." Fast forward 24 hours later, like this British guy called, "Hi Dan, I'm in the trap right now in the Hill District. They have AK-47s and kilos of heroin out here for display. It's really quite interesting." You know what I mean? Like, so it's like yeah, like okay, like yeah, like Pittsburgh's any different from any other city. Motherfuckers want to be famous. They want to be on TV. People are shitty decision makers. You know what I mean? Like they did it. Also, though, I will say this about Drugs Inc. They actually are very good about keeping people from being revealed. You know, like the criminal people on the show. They do a good job distorting voices, blurring tattoos. They change details of exterior. They mismatch exterior shots. Like they'll never actually show what neighborhood you're in. Like if they say that you're in Larimer, they're going to show shots of Penn Hills and then like the South Side. You know what I mean? Like they'll never show an exterior of your house, like where you actually are. They tell people to wear nondescript clothing. They keep those Jason masks in the back of the truck, so you know, like everybody can be like anonymous. So it's counterintuitive, and I'm not like recommending people to like, you know, go dance around on Drugs Inc. with like giant like bags of work and like money and guns and like talk about murders and shit. But I'm saying if you did do that, you would actually probably be surprised how hard it is for you to be tracked down off of it, because they actually, what you're seeing is not an accurate. Not accurate in the sense that they're lying, but what you're seeing is a well-disguised version of the real person who agreed to be on the show. Like, you don't know those people. If you actually knew that person and then you saw them on the show, you'd be like, damn, they did a really good job. Like, only people who really know you could tell who you are. And like, they told me, they're like, no one's ever gone to jail off it. And they're like, the only time someone might have, they were like, that person was being a known hot boy and was basically throwing up links and claiming that episode. Like, this is me on Drugs Inc. Check me out, which you know people could not resist doing.
Yeah, anyone who knows you will know that a couple years back you were way bigger than you are now.
Yeah.
You talk about what happened there and how you lost so much weight.
My stomach or my like colon exploded, and I had to have a colostomy bag like put on as an emergency measure to keep me from like poisoning myself and dying. Mm-hmm. I did poison myself pretty severely and almost died. You know, like I was starting to really go septic. I have a disease called diverticulosis, which is like pouching in like the intestines, and over time it can flare up, and it's aided obviously by a sedentary lifestyle and like poor exercise and diet regime, and it can cause you to rupture. And then when you rupture, you know, like the contents of your intestines, which are like super toxic and acidic and stuff like that, and very septic because it's carrying your waste, it can leak into, you know, your stomach and other parts of your body and just make you extremely sick. And that's what happened to me. I didn't go to the doctor for weeks. I was just thought I had food poisoning or something. And then to the end, I guess I was probably just more in denial. I just didn't want to like really deal with how sick I was. And then I finally went, and I went in probably about a couple hours before like I just would have died anyways, because like my body was too polluted. And yeah, they had to do the emergency surgery on me, so I couldn't eat or drink anything for 2 weeks probably during the hottest part of the summer. So I was literally just like lying in bed, just, you know, kind of wasting away. They give you none by mouth, so like no food, no water. All your hydration and nutrition is done through IVs. So you could lose a lot of weight like quickly doing that. So that was like the first like 40 pounds was like right then, like in the hospital. Like I came out of the hospital looking noticeably different. So then from there I have this colostomy bag, and like I'm thinner than I have been in like 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer. And I'm like, all right, do I want to like keep this weight or like lose it? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, dude, like if I just sit around with the bag, I'm just gonna get really big again. So I was like, what do I have to do to keep the weight off? So I kind of stopped eating, you know what I mean? Not stopped eating. I started eating very low calorie, only shit that was good for me. You know what I mean? Like I was eating like 900 calories a day. Like, you know what I mean? Like very, because I couldn't move around. So I was like very conscious of like, I did not want to gain back any of the weight. And then from there, as I started getting like better and feeling better and getting more active, I started working out more, and I started eating more too. And like, you know, and then like I started running the Cathedral Learning Steps with my boy Lynn, it's Darby's older brother. And from there I started running like on flat land, and like I realized that if I did this, I would keep the weight off and I would get in like way better shape. And then like, you know, like fast forward like a couple months from there, I was like running half marathons, like running marathons and whatnot. And now I'm like a workout nut, although I don't do anything but cardio. You know what I mean? Like everything I do, like I don't really lift weights or do push-ups or sit-ups. Like I've like gotten in really good shape, like honestly, like just by like running and doing like elliptical stuff. It's crazy.
And what has been the highlight of your career thus far?
As an MC or a lawyer?
Both.
I don't think my besides like, you know, making money or whatever, like my legal highlights have yet to come. That's not true. There was this guy named DeAndre Brown who was wrongfully accused of robbery, and Pat Nightingale and I helping him were able to exonerate DeAndre, and that was really cool because we were able to really, you know, like he potentially could have been in a very, very horrible, life-changing situation, and we were able to help him out and get him out of jail and clear his name. And that was really dope. You know, I'm the first person to admit that, like, you know, I need to be a criminal defense attorney for a much longer time before like I get really good at it, because like you can't get good at something as intricate as law in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You can get better than you were, but like I think, you know, it takes like a long time to master that. You know, that's why most of the people who have mastered it are usually a little older, although there are some younger people that are really good at it too. For rapping, I don't know. I mean, I think my highlight was just a series of highlights. It was more like a highlight reel of like all the time I spent touring and like running around like the world and stuff like that. Like that, it was crazy because I lived the kind of life that, you know, just people couldn't really even imagine. And it wasn't that I was like famous or anything like that, but we were just out there. You know what I mean? Like my life literally was an adventure. You know what I mean? Like just didn't know where you were going to be from month to month, like around the world. And that's dope. I mean, that's like a really good feeling to be walking down the street of a country you've never been before, you might never be again, you don't know anybody, you got a pocket full of cash, and it's just, you know, fucking open road in front of you. It's great.
What's a fun fact about you that people don't know?
I'm really good at video games.
What game in particular?
Like, I used to play Halo for money in Philly, like $20 a game, like when it first came out. I mean, I was like a ringer. You know what I mean? Like I'd like lose a couple games, like go down 60, 100 to people, and then just come back on them and just crush them. And I don't play that much anymore, but like I'm saying, like you might not think that about me because I don't like reference it or whatever. You don't like see me do it or anything like that. But like, I mean, dude, I would beat pretty much any game I got on the hardest level within like, you know, 2 days of getting it. I spent a lot of fucking time as a kid That's why I got so fat. I spent a lot of time as a kid playing video games.
Last question, what's next for Dose Noun?
I want to make some more videos with BZE, and I want to try to get a feature-length movie together about something locally related to Pittsburgh. Those would be the two things I would like to do creatively going forward.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate it.
A mathematic with savage tactics. Greenfield is what bats and hatchets and packers jackets. You get hacked quick with the rap wit, leave your back split, and that's it. The tactics are so imperial. The flow is lyrical. My soul's venereal. The disease can spread. It will eat you dead. Most MCs are breathing lead. The mic's toxic, but I rock all you troglodytes with the hype topics. Leave your optics spiked because I might rock it. I got the proper type. I rock it over the shoulder, composing the boulder that can smolder Jehovah in the wastes of space. The insane embrace. I break your face when I aviate and radiate. Everything you say is fake, but what I spray is great. I may relate. Take a break, go away. I display the pros. I can flow for days, make your brains explode in the dopest cave. That's where I serrate your throat until it's leaking your final breath. Speaking in the vinyl text, MCs get spiked to death and remove it from their windpipe with the insight to grit mics. I'm known to spit tight from Nebraska to Buffalo. You can ask how I fuck your hoe when I crush the show. Son should know I make your lungs explode, convert you to a fucking toad. I'm the sorcerer's apprentice. The metaphors are tremendous, and I leave your head split with the best shit till reddish drips go down your cheeks. Profound for weeks, I'm blessing this. Saying Dose Noun is weak, you got no etiquette. I can chin check your bitch. You wanna step up, you can catch a headbutt that leaves your chest crushed and your neck thrust at an odd angle. My thoughts dangle, leaving your squad strangled. God's bangle, tiger with the hyper MacGyver cipher lighter. I can slice ya from a long distance with a strong imprint. I'm known to bomb infants so cold cause Dose is bold. You don't know that I got the Pinocchio nose when I'm smoking dro, and the poker nose when I poked your hoe. I hope you go to another plane, your frame gets crushed. I'm fucking insane, you may just trust. No will remain when I aim and bust, cause I'm cutting your frame, you may get touched. I'm a professional, off the dome technical. You can blow my testicles and I got stacks in the thousands. I've been rabble rousing since my grandpops was in Saxon housing concentration camp. Every thought I say is amped and you may get slammed into the pavement. What I'm spitting is great shit. I'm living enraged with the type of rap that persists nowadays, because I got the powerful ways your whole sound will decay. I'm about to spray. Dose Noun is great. I can trounce your fate as I weave the flesh of your life. MCs are just blessing the mic, but I can squeeze it until reddish stripes erupt from my hands, run over the fucking land. God numbered Dan as 1 in a million, crushing civilians, gun in your building. No one but the children will leave it alive. The deepest scribe, the speeches inside. MCs should provide an escape exit for all that fake gay shit. Got the insane wit to leave your brain slit. I may live 100 past lives. When I crushed and grabbed mics, I smack you twice, holding a scimitar off the dome with the vicious bars. I got the sickest art. I'm spitting darts that can tear your click apart. And this kid can mark, had to take a second to swallow the saliva. Dose Noun is Apollo in the fire, because I rose from the ashes, off the dome with the tactics, and my flow is madness. You don't have this, you can't possess it, no man can test it. I manifested, Dan's the best bitch and I am infected, so I slam the best clicks.